Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Well, hopefully I can explain to you what Public Works does. We get that question all the time. So what do they do? So a lot of people I guess they think that we're the county, but we're the city, and then probably the county people think that they're the city. So anyway, basically what we have is we have several divisions. We of course maintain the streets and alleys. We pick up the garbage and the recycle, and we maintain the fleet for all of the equipment. We also provide electricity for the city, and we treat the water and for drinking water and the wastewater, and also we have the treatment plant. So streets and alleys, we have over 100 miles of road. That's about 34 centerline miles, because the roads are so wide that it's a lot to maintain. But we do it, and we do the snow plowing, street striping, and pothole repair. So also we pick up the garbage and the refuse, the recycle. We have 7 different containers that you can put your recyclables in, because we rely on the county to dispose of the recycled. So that's 7 different products that they have. But also we pick up the trash, and I don't recommend filling your dumpsters like that right there on the right, because that attracts those bears that's in the middle, and birds and all that kind of stuff. Also, we do the tree dump. That's just for the, limbs and leaves and grass clippings and stuff like that. So we encourage everybody to do that, because we actually recycle these products, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But we'll also take concrete and asphalt if it doesn't have steel in it, because we like to use that for our road base and stuff. So it's a good thing for the community. It gives you a place. It's a little bit cheaper than the landfill, and it also allows us to recycle the products. We also do electronic recycling. This is something that we do usually the first Monday of each month, and we take TVs and radios, microwaves, all that kind of stuff, and there's a fee for that, but it keeps us from landfilling that, so that's a good thing. Also, the fleet division, we have some mechanics there. We maintain probably over 200 pieces of equipment, from chainsaws to diesel engines, snow blowers, loaders, all kinds of stuff, police cars. So it's a very important part of Public Works to maintain the fleet so that we can roll every day. And also electricity, as part of the department, we have 4,600 utility services that we maintain, and that's 65 miles of electric lines that we have to maintain. So we buy the power from Mean, and we buy it from WAPA. Those are the 2 main sources that we buy power for, and then we distribute it out to all the customers. So on the water and wastewater, so obviously we have water distribution. We have 9 wells in the city. Those big brown houses that you see in the middle of the street, that's a water well. That's when I first got here, I'm like, what? Why would we have a well in the middle of the street? But anyway, that is what we have there. So we also, the wastewater, we treat all the wastewater, and that's where we return the liquid to the Gunnison River, and then the solids we turn into Gunny Gold. The wastewater treatment plant, I wanted to highlight that because we just got through spending $14 million on this plant. It hadn't really been updated since 1985. We found that it was very difficult to get parts for it, so we went in and did a major redo on the plant and increased the efficiency of it. We really looked into energy savings for the plant. We are projected to have over 30% energy consumption loss because of the upgrades that we've done in there, but we treat 500 million gallons of wastewater every year on that. It's a lot. It's a 4.2 million gallons per day plant. So what does it do? Well, obviously it takes wastewater from your houses, businesses, and we treat it and return the water back to the river, and then the solids go to Gunny Gold. And so so it's down at the lowest part of the city or the county because we want everything to gravity flow down to it. So we always put it in the lowest part. So you usually always see a wastewater by a river or something like that. So that's where that is. It's down, it's west of town. And it's an interesting plant because it treats the wastewater naturally through microorganisms or bacteria. We call them bugs. And so you have to, when you treat the waste, you have to really encourage a good environment for the bugs to live. You have to inject oxygen in there and make sure, and that's why we're real picky about what people put in their waste. We don't want oil or grease or chemicals, stuff like that in your wastewater stream. We don't want you to flush that because the bugs don't like that. And it kills the bugs. You can have a upset at the plant where all the bacteria dies because of the ecosystem. And it takes us about a week to grow it back. So it's real sensitive with that. So one of the big things we did improvement-wise was at the headworks. That's where the sewer comes into the plant. That's where it first meets. So the old screen system we had in there was about 38 millimeters wide, which it allowed a lot of the rags and sand grit and stuff like that to enter into the plant, which will, help clog up or mess up the pumps and stuff like that. So the new system that we have is 5 millimeters. So that really helps us maintain that plant and where we don't have to treat and have to constantly have problems with rags and stuff like that gets into the stream. Also, the oxidation ditches, that's where the primary treatment occurs in the plant. They have these huge motors that will spin and create turbulence and inject air into the wastewater stream. Well, the old motors were just, you turn them on, you turn them off. So it was like 125 horsepower that were just constantly turning at a set RPM. Now, what we have are these new variable frequency drive motors that will, we have dissolved oxygen probes in the wastewater that measure the oxygen, and they'll send a message to the motor and tell it to spin at X RPM. So now we're only spinning what we need to, and there's no excessive spin. Okay, and then and you can see, that's a video on the left, but you can see the big motors, the 125 horsepower motors spinning, they're creating oxygen. Now at night, before, that was run all the time. And that's just a huge energy consumption part of the plant. So at night, what we do is now we put these invent mixtures in there where they're only 5.4, and all they do is just keeps the flow moving so that you don't ever stop, and then your suspended solids would go down to the bottom. You don't want that to happen. You want to let it stay suspended so that the next morning when the big aerators, then you put the air in there. So that's another reason why we're anticipating 30% reduction. These are the clarifiers. We completely redid them, and that's where the separation occurs. That's where the liquid stays at top, and then that's where you want it to settle. So you want the sludge, biosolids, to go to the bottom, and then we use these new efficient pumps now to pump that back to where we make the Gunny Gold, and then the liquid part goes to the UV disinfection system. So that's the UV building. The old one, which actually it was the first permitted UV system in the state of Colorado. So it's very old. It was an open vat system and had bulbs in there that would shoot the ultraviolet rays into that. And that's what you want, is the UV will completely destroy the pathogens that are harmful, because we don't want that. When we return the liquid to the Gunnison River, we want it to be clean. I wouldn't drink it, but it's really, it looks like drinking water. But these are in-vessel reactors that, you see the slide on the right, you see that's where all the bulbs are. There are about 60 of them in there. And so they just blast that UV light in there and just completely kills the bacteria, the harmful bacteria, and then allows the water to go to the river. And that's an outfall. That's not the one that we have, but that's similar to, that's where the water goes back to the river. So here you can see the bottom part of the slide. That's the Gunny Gold. That's where we make it. So like I said, you know, after we do that separation, the biosolids comes into this big pile here. So we take the tree chips and stuff that come from the tree dump, and we mix it up with the biosolids, and we compost that. It's got to be at a certain temperature, and it sits there and cooks for about a year. And we have these Wi-Fi probes that are in there that measure the heat, so that we know when we need to stir it or mix it to try to optimize the breakdown of the materials. And that's the screen that once it's cooked for a year, then we put it through the screen and we take out some of the chips that didn't compost, and we sell that. We sell over 500 tons of that per year. And it's pretty cool, because that's another way that we're recycling, and we're keeping stuff from going into the landfill. And it's turning in a toxic, what normally would be landfill, toxic, into a beneficial use that everybody enjoys using the Gunny Gold. And another feature of the $14 million that we did at the plant was we completely upgraded the laboratory. It's a certified laboratory, and it treats over 100 different water systems around in the community. Some of you probably have some wells and you want to treat it to make sure that it's okay, meets the state regulations. So that's where we do it there. And also we test all of our stuff as well. And another great feature of the upgrade was the Scada system. That's a supervisory control and data acquisition, and we connected it all with fiber optics. So now we have fiber optics that run from the city out to the wastewater plant, because it was so remote before that we didn't even have Wi-Fi, or we couldn't even connect with servers out there. So now we have fiber optics that go out there and communicate, and you can see one of the operators there, he pulled that up. Those circle looking things are called the oxidation ditches, and so he can go in there and he can see what's going on, see how much oxygen's in there, and you can see on the left the two red parts, and then you got a green. The green means that aerator is running at that moment, and he can run the plant from an iPhone now with the Scada system. Before we had that, we basically just had a big switch, on, off. Now we got fiber optics, Scada. The Scada will talk to the motors, tell the motors when to spin, when not to spin. It's very sophisticated now. So, and lastly, we're very excited about the upgrades that we're going to do to the RV dump station that we have out there by the airport. We're putting in new equipment and also it's on the honor system. So we'll have a way to measure now and bill, where you can stick a credit card in there and take care of that. And also there's going to be a water fill station there too. So it's going to be a big improvement. We hope to have that, not the water done this year, but we hope to have the sewer part done by November. So that's what we do at Public Works. So if any questions, I'd be glad to. Yes, sir.
Do you have any knowledge about the county, university, city, solar electric?
Yeah, that's one of our projects. That's a 847 kW facility. We've partnered with the county and Western on that. Western will get 1/3 of the production, the county get 1/3, and then the city get 1/3 of that. But yeah, it's going where the county is doing the upgrades to the airport. They're going to put a covered parking lot in there, and so we're going to put the panels on top of that roof system and generate electricity there. And so the Western donated some money in that, and the county provided the structures in the land, so it was kind of a 1/3 split on that. So yeah, we're excited about that for sure.
My understanding was it was going to be online like this month, but what's the status of that?
Well, we were waiting for the county to get the roof system up, and so they've had some issues getting their plans out and stuff like that. But yeah, we've been ready for about a year to do it, but of course we have to wait to when it's ripe to do it out at the site. So that's what we're doing, and we're at 78% renewable right now. The city is, which is extremely good. Our goal is to be 100%, and we do that by building solar arrays and that sort of thing. But we hope to buy some more wind from Mean, and WAPA is the hydro part of it, and they're struggling now because of droughts and stuff like that. So they're probably going to be giving us less, which means gives us more opportunity to buy some more wind if we can. So, any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry.
Why would you put, with the new plant, why would you put water that you wouldn't drink back into the river?
Well, you probably could drink it. I wouldn't recommend it. It's very clean. It doesn't have any, but it's not drinking water quality. But it's great for the fish, for that ecosystem. So, it's because the Gunnison River is so volume-wise, it's so small as compared to, say, the Mississippi River. The requirements are so more stringent. It's almost drinking water quality what the CDPHE requires us to put back into the Gunnison River, where if you were putting it in the Mississippi River, it wouldn't be that clean. It'd have to be that clean. But it's really, it's almost drinking water, but I wouldn't recommend it. Maybe it's just the thought of it, huh? Do you have a question?
Are there 3 to 5 specific items you wish people would not consider drains?
Yes. Well, we test that the water that you asked going to the Gunner. There's probably over 200 things we test for, like mercury, lead, everything. So any of that kind of stuff that we test for, we don't want it in there because we are required to maintain those metals or whatever it is at a certain threshold. So if it exceeds that, then we may be in violation of our permit with the state. But from an ecosystem, because it's a very delicate ecosystem, I wouldn't recommend putting any petroleum products in there, any kind of chemicals, drugs, anything like that, medicines, stuff like that. None of that. Now, if you put one medicine bottle in there, volume-wise, it probably wouldn't do anything to the plant, but if everybody did it, we would definitely see the results at the plant because it's very sensitive.
Okay, one more question.
One more question? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Do you now serve all of the upstream within 3 miles of the city on city sewer through that county project?
Yeah, right. North Valley, Dos Rios area, yes, the county collects the sewer there and sends it to us. So we do treat 3 different systems from the county. So we do, and electricity-wise, we go out in the county as well. So it just depends on what the public utility services kind of franchise, what we have and what Gunnison Electric has. Same thing with the sewer. but we have the franchise rights for that within 3 miles of the city, but we don't take every sewer that way. If that answers.
The city's goal is to control pollutants in the groundwater that would affect the city.
Well, actually, we're working on that right now through a source water protection plan. So the city is doing that right now, is trying to put some teeth in some of the ordinances that can prevent contamination out there, because our water wells are pretty shallow, so it's really susceptible to contamination, although we haven't had that. You know, we're real sensitive about what is spilled and what's, you know, turned loose out there, because it does infiltrate into the aquifer.